Songwriting. One very important point to remember when writing is not to be too personal. Sometimes if a songwriter is going through a rough or a joyous time and writes down his or her thoughts, it may mean much to the writer, but may be too personal for others to fully understand. Being able to identify with a lyric or a certain style of music is so important to the listener. They need to be able to hear your song, take it in, and feel like they've experienced something intimate with the tune. Remember to work with general themes. By this I mean songs pertaining to love, betrayal, revenge, or happiness. By doing this, you're dealing with emotions that everyone has felt. If you combine a general theme with an intriguing lyric and hook, hand in hand with a hypnotic melody line, you've created a great song. Don't lose sight of your goal, of knowing where you wish to go with your tune. You need to keep in mind different avenues to intertwine one line to the next, but don't get off course and confuse the listener. There is nothing more annoying than to hear a lyric move from one point to another without tying it together in a chorus or bridge. Keep in mind the meanings of the basic structure of a song: verses, chorus, bridge, and breaks. Verses, mainly used to introduce the listeners to the song, giving them a time and a place, perhaps names and feelings. Verses should build on one another. They should tell a story, or at least stay within a framework, theme, or topic you're dealing with. Chorus. Without being too specific in the chorus, it should contain the main message you're conveying. The chorus normally, although not always, is where the hook is used, to audibly hook the listener to the song. Sometimes the hook is repetitive. It should nonetheless be the focal point of interest. Not all hooks are lyrical. Some are musical. Remember the musical hook in The Walk of Life by Dire Straits? The keyboard part was addictive, and it made you want to hear it again and again. Even minutes after hearing the song, you could still hear it in your mind. A great example of a lyrical hook is Passionate Kisses by Mary Chapin Carpenter. Every Breath You Take by The Police is a good example of combined lyrical and musical hook. Bridge. Not all songs have bridges. Not all songs need them. Bridges are used when a song may need a little extra boost to give even more meaning to the tune or the bottom line. Normally the bridge is no more than just a couple of lines, but those few lines can really make a difference. Bridges can pack a punch, as well they should. Some bridges are meant to shake the listener's ears, to get their attention, or perhaps set them up for another attention getter, a key change. Breaks. You don't have to arrange your song with a break. There are times, though, when a break is a nice interlude from the chorus or singing. Breaks give the listener time to give their minds a break, then to get them back into the song. They can also be used to express your abilities on lead guitar or a lead keyboard part. Use your imagination. I wouldn't recommend the use of a break on demonstration tapes unless it's absolutely necessary. Publishers are wanting to hear your songwriting abilities more than your ability to throw in a break. Besides, breaks take up more time on the tape, which in turn takes up more of the publisher's time, which usually is a precious commodity. Here are some examples of using verses, chorus, bridge, and breaks. These are only 5 examples, and you can pick and choose how you want to use them, come up with your own ideas. But these are just 5 simple examples of how to arrange your song using verses, chorus, bridge, and breaks. Number 1. Verse, chorus, verse, break, chorus, chorus. Number 2, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus. Number 3, verse, chorus, chorus, chorus. Number 4, verse, chorus, break, key change, chorus, chorus. Number 5, verse, chorus, key change, bridge, chorus, chorus. The melody should work hand in hand with the lyric. For example, you normally wouldn't use a heavy metal sound to a sensitive subject matter. The music should set the tone of emotion for the listener. Writing melodies is a very subjective thing. What sounds good to one person may not sound good to another. One thing that is somewhat of an unwritten rule is that the melody in the verses should never distract or take away the importance of keeping the chorus up front in the minds and ears of the listener. The verses shouldn't be remembered more than the chorus. The chorus should have the most memorable musical lines. It's usually where the hook is, be it lyrical or musical. It's not that the verses are unimportant. They are. Verses should help to make a way to set up the chorus, an easy transition into it and out of it, leading into the next verse, and so on. Unless you feel it absolutely necessary, try not to repeat the same melody lines, such as every couple lines of lyric. That can be a way to bore the ears of anyone. Try to write in movements, and I don't mean that in the classical sense. By this I mean have a particular melody line for the first 2 or 3 lines of your lyric, then throw in another different line, such as using jazz sounds or jazz chords, or possibly using minors and sharps or flats. By doing this, you keep the attention of the listener, and you help ensure their enjoyment through the verse and chorus. By writing an interesting melody line, you make it not so predictable, and thus make the listener want to hear it again. Be original. If you're proficient on more than one instrument, or even if you can only chord on piano, switch around from one instrument to another. Sometimes that can stimulate a thought of changing the melody to be better, or possibly give you another perspective on writing you never thought of having prior to writing from just one instrument. Listen to your songs. Try to identify areas where you're getting into a pattern of using similar melody lines from other songs. If you're all by yourself, you ought to try out melody lines that don't sound like they'd go together. You'd be surprised how inspiring this practice can be. It's one way of breaking out of old molds of musical patterns and breaking new ground into uncharted territory. Every songwriter, to one degree or another, falls into certain modes of writing that at times can sound repetitive. Keep in mind the meanings of 3 components you'll find in songs: metaphors, similes, and imagery. Metaphor. Metaphors are great to use, but you need to be careful not to confuse the listener. A metaphor is a form of writing in which how you describe things or people or situations are conveyed as actually being something they aren't. Such as describing a mean person as a bull or a lion. You describe them as actually being a bull or a lion with all the attributable traits of what's being described. Simile. Similes are also descriptive, but unlike metaphors, where whatever you're describing a person or thing as actually being, similes make a different type of comparison. An example of a simile is Annie's Song by John Denver. The usage of as or like is proof of a given description being a simile. I'll give you a couple of examples. Her hair was as smooth as silk. Or, he was so in love with her, his face lit up like the sun. Imagery. You can intermingle the usage of a metaphor or a simile using colorful language and being creative with your comparisons. Imagery makes the listener really think, to come around to your way of comparing people, things, or feelings. When people are able to identify with your comparisons, it makes them feel like they're a part of your way of thinking, or yours theirs, and they feel a definite closeness to the song. Rhythm and rhyme are two other components that sometimes cause confusion for songwriters. You don't always have to have a rhyme, but because this is a song, you have to have a rhythm. There has to be a beat. You may be wondering where you can get ideas for your songs. Keep your eyes open. Song ideas are everywhere. Watch people. Try to put yourself in their minds and lives. How do they feel? What kind of experiences have they been through? What is it about them that we can all identify with? Without being too personal, what have you been through that we can all identify with? Use old cliches that are a part of our language and our culture. Use slang. Look for double meanings. Double meanings don't always have to be of a sexual nature. Read book titles. They will give you numerous writing ideas, or at least give you an idea from which to start. Collaboration is an option not all songwriters choose, but it's important not to close your mind from trying a variety of ways to write. If you work with someone else, you can feel the creative juices flowing, and when that happens, all sorts of great things can result. Get your songs copyrighted before you send them to anyone. If you have a tune that you feel is of top quality, it's worth the money needed for a copyright. Deal only with legitimate publishers. You may wonder how you can identify them. This is a good rule of thumb. Deal only with the large or well-established publishing and record companies, or those found in the Songwriter's Market Book by Writer's Digest Books. If an advertisement in the back of some magazine is requesting lyrics or tunes, don't fall for it. The majority of legitimate companies don't advertise in magazines, unless of course they're published in a Songwriter Club magazine, which monitors publishers and record companies in need of material. Those that advertise in magazines promising to set a tune to your lyric are for the most part song sharks. They work about 1/32 of an inch within the law. They're primarily money-sucking monsters that prey on the hopes of the unsuspecting songwriter. Oh hey, they'll set music to your lyric, or they'll record or publish your song, but for a price you pay. That's not how it works in the music business. You don't pay them, they pay you. Don't get bitten by a song shark. Here's a summary of songwriting. Don't be too personal. The listener may not be able to relate to your song. Make it easy for the listener to identify with your tune. Work with general themes such as love, revenge, happiness, or reflection. Don't lose sight of your goal by veering off in different directions. Verses, an introduction and completion. It sets the mood and direction of the song. It walks the listener through the song. Chorus, the main message you're trying to convey. It ties the verses together toward your ultimate goal of a complete understanding of your tune. Use a metaphor or a simile to create imagery in the mind's eye of those who hear your work. Be creative with your lyric. Never, ever, ever send a song out or give a song to someone without copywriting it first. Legitimate record companies and publishers normally don't publish their need for material in the back of a magazine. Song sharks do.